Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Wow, man.
This is
We're
Horror Story
going.
Club.
This
This
is
is Horror
Horror
Story
Story
Club.
Club.
Welcome. Welcome, everybody. If it's your first time here on this every Thursday afternoon adventure that Sarah Ray Warner and I on, we are working our way through this anthology, The Dark Descent, edited by David Hartwell. This is an iconic anthology of horror short fiction. Sarah and I are writers. We're engaging with these stories once a week to improve our craft as speculative fiction writers. On Wednesday, we read short stories of science fiction from this fine anthology. And on Fridays, we write live. So keep coming back if you like what you see. Sarah, you want to tell us who you are?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a writer and podcaster and podcast producer. I live in the Midwest. I'm currently babysitting my niece, which is why I'm not in my office. And that's all I have to say about myself for right now. How about you?
I'm a horror writer. I live in Mexico City. I think we're streaming. I want to flag. We just have one person in the mix right now. We normally have more, so I just want to double check on your side, make sure everything's okay. If you wouldn't help us out, folks.
Yeah.
Maybe put something in the comments to tell us you're here. You can hear us okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we don't talk for an hour to the void.
I mean, that's essentially what podcasting is when you don't do it live. So
it's true.
Me and the void, or excuse me, the void and I, since we're writers and we should have grammar, the void and I, we've been through some stuff. So
you go back.
We go back. We've talked through a lot of stuff, especially about writing. So if it's just the void and us, that's I want to say it could be worse. Oh, Narrative Vault. Hey. Good.
Great. Welcome, everybody.
Fantastic. And it looks like we're good over on Twitch. Okay.
Yeah, we got a few more now.
So I
think we're probably in the mix. All right. Today's offering, everyone.
Yes.
From the grand year of 1882, The New Mother by Lucy Clifford. A terrible tale of children disobeying their parents. Sarah, what's this story about?
Oh, hey, Jimmy. Jimmy says audio is good. I love to hear it. Thank you. So this story, this was strange for me for a few reasons, and I'm going to get a little narcissistic for a minute. So I studied this period of literature in college, like Goblin Market, like all of that. I've never heard of Lucy Clifford. And so I'm really excited that we got a chance to read her. That being said, that's not true. I was going to say I've never read a story like this. I did not expect this story to necessarily go the way it went. So here's the deal, okay? And there's so many unusual quirks in this story. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. It's weird, but in the best sort of way. So there's two children. The very first sentence of the story is, "The children were always called Blue Eyes and the Turkey." And I commented to Asa last week that it sounds like Starsky and Hutch, or I don't know, just they feel more like symbols, but we'll get into that in a second. So these two kids are very good. They love their mother loves them. The father is away at sea. They live in a cozy little cottage, and every once in a while they go into town to see if there's any letters from the father, while the mother stays home with the third child, which is a baby who I don't believe is named. One day, the two children go into the village and they see this new little girl there they've never seen before. And the little girl has this weird guitar sort of instrument. And I believe it's called what is it called?
Pear drum?
Pear drum, thank you. And if I was a better researcher, I would have actually looked up if that's real or made up for this story. But, and she says, inside the pear drum are a little tiny man and woman, and they dance. And the children, because this is before the internet, hey, Kashiki, before the internet, the kids are amazed by this, and they want to see the tiny man and woman dance inside the pear drum. And this little girl, who is not named, says, no, you have to be naughty. And they're like, oh, we can be naughty. And she's like, no, you can't. You're not naughty unless you do all this stuff. And she gives them essentially a list of things to do to upset their mother. Breaking things, trashing the house. They do this, they go back and forth several times. Each time they go back to this little girl after having been naughty and distressing their mother. They go back and the little girl's like, nope, you're still not naughty enough. And I'm going to up the stakes. The little woman has a secret that she'll only tell to the naughtiest children. And these two kids are like, they're just like hyped up at this point. They don't care. They're just horrible to their mother. And their mother's like, if you keep being horrible to me, I'm going to leave and a new mother is going to replace me. And the new mother is freaking terrifying. And the kids don't believe her, even though they believe that there's a tiny man and a woman who live in a pear drum. And basically what happens, spoiler, is the kids continue to be little nightmares and they break stuff and trash the house. And the mother, it's very interesting because the mother almost seems like a victim here, but the mother's like, oh, now you've done it. Now I must go away. And she takes the baby and like leaves. And then, classic horror ending, maybe even some over the garden wall vibes, but like this new mother comes like knocking at the door and they hear she has this like tail and she has these like red glass beady eyes that shine and you never see her. They knock, or the new mother knocks, the kids run out to the woods and then they live there forever. The end. So, is there anything I missed?
There is an important revelation about who's telling the story.
Yes.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. I think that was a very sound plot summary.
Okay.
You've got two kids and mom's like, don't do it. If you do it, everything's going to go wrong. And they do it and everything goes wrong. Pretty straightforward and terrifying. Yeah. I am so excited to talk about this.
Well, me too.
Was frequently disturbed. I was upset at the moral universe being presented. And then the terror heightened towards the end when this revelation happens that it's potentially the mother herself who's watching her children suffer. Gosh, I'm just like oozing with energy right now, and the energy is not focused. Where should we start this conversation?
Oh man. You're talking to somebody who has ADHD. This is great. Let's start with just tales in general of this type. The morality tale. I know growing up, I've mentioned this before, I had books of fairy tales. My parents didn't necessarily use them to like teach me moral lessons. But I did grow up reading these stories, and there was, Red Riding Hood. And the moral of that story is don't go into the woods or you will literally get eaten by a wolf. These stories were told to sort of shape children's behavior and to keep them from doing things that they're not supposed to do. And there's a huge wealth of these stories, notably fairy tales from this era and before. So there's a rich tradition here of that. Now, I'm curious, Asa, did you grow up with the boogeyman? Like, oh, if you don't get in bed by 8 p.m., the boogeyman will eat you. Like, did you get anything like that growing up? Any of these tales to coerce you into behaving?
I can't say that I did. I cannot say
I didn't
that
either.
I did.
No. Our threat was if you don't get in bed by 8 p.m., dad's going to get mad. And like that was scary enough for us. Like we didn't need we didn't need a horrible monster.
Yes. I mean, I had a very scary father, but I think that this is much scarier.
Yes. So
yeah. Well, I just want to share for everyone who's just coming into this story, this was an instance where the introduction did help for me a little bit. So this story was written in the late 1800s. This is like almost a full 150 years ago. And this was chosen in this collection as a representative of a kind of tale, which you're describing. This is the way that the editor of this anthology describes that type of tale. It is a curious example of the often noted tendency of Victorian morality to be at odds in an unsettling way with human psychology. Punishment out of all proportion to the sin.
Ooh.
So that was interesting. That definitely gave me some like foundation to engage with this. It's like, okay, this is part of a larger like moral moment happening in Victorian England where we need to say like, yes, what's going to happen to you is way worse than what's going to be committed. And it makes me think a little bit about the contes philosophiques, the type of tale we're talking about in our science fiction story club, which are these vessels to convey specific ideas in the form of a story, but they are explicitly like, we are going to share a specific idea. And so it helped for me to understand that that's what this was at some level. This isn't necessarily just like a narrative or an entertainment experience. This is
Right.
sort of explicitly, we are going to teach a lesson.
Right.
Which actually makes it even more disturbing, because I think it like takes itself seriously in that regard.
Yeah.
So for me, this was like scary as a piece of like 3,000 words. It's like, I'm reading this 3,000 words. I'm imagining the images that are being presented to me. And then it was scary on this other level where it was like, oh my gosh, how was this document experienced 150 years ago? That is like a whole other kind of terror, where I'm being asked to kind of imagine a worldview so foreign, so terrible, really. And so that was cool. It was cool. And I think it's like on these story clubs, we kind of like, sometimes we really kind of feel out what the historical context is, and sometimes we don't. And this was one, I have to say, that I definitely appreciated thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, like compared to yesterday's story, we did the new overworld for our science fiction story club, and it was such a non-story, but in like a different way. Again, I don't think it was written for entertainment. It was one of those contes philosophiques, but it was also I don't know, this one just felt like such a richer experience. So yeah. I appreciate you also pointing out that this was so much worse. Like the punishment was so much worse than the sin. It was disproportionate. I appreciate you pointing that out, because do you want to talk a little bit about like why that might be? Like, is it purely just to correct behavior, or was there something else going on?
Well, I think again, it's like there's two paths into the story. It's like I can kind of come up with or sort of engage with it from a contemporary reader, and then it's like the point is to elicit and experience a certain kind of horror, which I think is like the one I'm most excited by, or it's kind of like, how does this exist within the ecosystem of society in Victorian England? But if we take it as if it was written yesterday, right, then it's very dark in a very specific kind of way, in that in this world, children, typically a source of joy, innocence, wonder, inspiration, are actually the lowest on the totem pole.
Yeah. But at the same time, that's so true. They're the lowest on the totem pole. They are treated very differently, I think, than we would treat them now. But they also have great agency. Like they have complete control over what is happening in this story.
That's true. And nothing happens that they weren't told was going to happen.
Yeah. Which makes it made it even worse for me to read. Like I saw that ending coming, and like I was like, you guys, come on. No, you gotta know. You've gotta know. There's not a little man and a woman inside that pear drum. Or if there is, you're not gonna see it. Like,
that's interesting. I did not see this ending coming.
oh,
I thought
okay.
that the girl on the fence was going to come back as that she was going to become the glass-eyed tail
that she
new mom.
was the night mother.
That she was the new mother.
Oh, I said the night mother, but also terrifying.
Right.
That would have been very interesting.
Right.
Okay, so that little girl, should we even get into this right now? Like, who was that?
The teenager?
Yeah.
The 15-year-old? Well, let's describe her for the people. So there's two small children. We don't know exactly how old they are, Blue Eye and Turkey, and they go back and forth between their farm and the village, and they run up on the following. The girl seemed to be about 15 years old. She was dressed in very ragged clothes. Round her shoulders there was an old brown shawl. She wore no bonnet. Her hair was coal black and hung down uncombed and unfastened. She had something hidden under her shawl. On seeing them coming toward her, she carefully put it under her and sat upon it. She sat watching the children approach, and did not move or stir till they were within a yard of her. Then she wiped her eyes, just as if she had been crying bitterly, and looked up. This is the image we're given.
Yeah.
So to me, this is just iconic. And it's one of these things that's like we take for granted now, but like somebody started it. And it probably goes way back before this to Brothers Grimm and so on. But just this like two kids walking on the road and there's someone waiting for them leaned up against a pile of rocks. Just iconic. So cinematographic.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So cinematic. The story was so cinematic to me. And I thought that was crazy. So yeah, it's like we have this like, is it a witch? Is it like, you know, the trope of kind of a wandering gypsy type trope? What is the trope? What do we have here? Definitely not a person.
Yeah.
I don't think. How do we know that?
I also think it was not a person, and it was, for me, it was in first and foremost my expectations. I kind of expected it to be like a fairy or some kind of trickster. But for me, it was how this figure, this 15-year-old girl supposedly communicated. It was very strange. Like it starts off, she's crying, and then everything she says, like, even though she is being actually quite polite and she is being, I don't know, almost, I think, is it indifferent? And she's just weirdly calm throughout this whole thing. And it's just, it doesn't seem like a way that the story seems to call attention to it and say like, oh no, she was very calm or she was very polite. Yeah, they just it consistently goes through and yeah, says how strange it is. So sorry, that was kind of rambly, and I'm trying to find like a particular example.
Yeah, I mean, well, to me, she felt very modern in that, like, she felt
Ooh.
like, okay, if we really want to like English major the heck out of this,
Do it.
right? Modernism, like whatever. It's all of a sudden when characters have like inner psychology. And this particular character did seem to be exercising that in the extent to which she manipulates these two children.
Yeah.
Like everything she said was really strategic. There was a lot of just like gaslighting, you know, just explicit, like, you don't know what you're talking about. You aren't this, you're not that. How could you possibly give yourself that kind of credit? Just truly kind of abusive, psychological abuse towards these children, right? Which, and then of course, again, it's like the children are the ones who end up being punished. I want to bring Jimmy into the mix here. Jimmy says most old fairy tales truly were warnings about real dangers couched in story forms. Well, okay. So if we run with that, the real danger here is don't talk to strangers.
Is it?
Right? I think it's what her mom says. Don't be long, the mother said, as she always did before they started. Go the nearest way and don't look at any strangers you meet, and be sure you do not talk with them. So this is really just tale as old as time. You know, I guess parents protecting their children, don't talk to strangers. These are young children making the trip to town all by themselves. So it could be as simple as that. And you know, who are we to say? Who are we to say that we wouldn't do the same? Instill the fear of God into our, worse than God, the fear of witch lady into our kids if it was that dangerous. I mean, this is 1882. Who knows what it was like walking to town at the age of 7, you know? So, you know, you put all that in perspective, and maybe I'm just being soft, and this actually isn't that bad. And this has actually saved kids' lives.
No. No. I mean, I didn't mean to say that. Like, obviously that has a lot of merit. I think though, what makes me curious though is the mother says don't talk to strangers. Is that the sin? Or is the sin going back to this stranger and following the stranger's orders and like trashing the house? Is it, I think gosh, I wish I would have underlined what they do to be naughty: throwing cold water on the fire, breaking the clock, pulling all the tins down from the walls and throwing them on the floor. I want to say at some point she even says like stand the baby. She wants them to stand the baby on its head. And I'm like,
which
what
they don't do.
What does that mean?
Which they don't do. And then
which they don't do, right?
The witch is able to kind of hold that over them later.
Yeah.
All
right. So there's a lot of like there's a path, right? And their first stop is disobeying mom and talking to stranger. But like then there's also second stop, returning. And they have these chances to not get the consequences. The
Yes.
consequence being the new mother, you know, coming and replacing their kind, beautiful mother. So
Yes. There's so much I want to talk about here.
yes,
Yes,
please.
well, that's something one little like lovely little technique craft item, the acceleration that the subsequent violations of the warning take. So fast, like so fast. The story really accelerates. But okay, I want to attempt to engage with this in just for the sake of the exercise, the save the cat conception of horror stories. So I'm not like a huge devotee of Save the Cat, but I do think that they talk about like the 8 different types of stories or whatever, and they identify one type of story as the monster in the house story. And it says that almost any horror story can be like slotted into that sort of schema. And that schema is that there's some kind of monster, there's some kind of house, and then there's some kind of sin. That there's some kind of violation that happens that activates the monster in the house. And if like we're trying to like unlock this, I think what you're getting at is really important. Like, what is the sin? Is it disobeying the mother? Or I mean, it must be, right?
Or is it all of the above? Or like Jimmy suggests here, there's a huge dollop of treat your mother well no matter what temptations come to you otherwise. Right. Giving into the temptation to see the little man and the woman in the pear drum. There's a lot going on here. Disobedience, behavior, there's temptations, there's giving into that. They see their mother crying too. And
they're undone by it. It makes them upset, which just makes us feel more upset at this like helpless child just being torn. Yeah.
It was rough to go through. Yeah.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah, we have like a whole multitude of sins that could be the trigger sin here.
Right. I think, okay. Then let's try to crack this story open maybe from a different angle. Let's continue pursuing one thing we haven't talked about yet is the monster, which is the new mother. What's your like what'd that do for you as a reader and writer?
It's interesting because you can't talk about the new mother without talking about the existing mother, because they're dark and light, right? They're not even foils. They're just literally two sides of a mother coin. And the mother actually tells them not to talk to strangers and not to disobey with a threat. And it's interesting because, and I think this is maybe what you were getting at earlier, Asa, talking about disproportionate crimes and punishments. This loving mother, there's this weird loving figure who does nothing but like wonderful things for her children and smothers them with love and calls them dearest. And then she gives them this threat. Like she initiates the threat. And so the threat is, basically the mother says, oh, you should never be naughty, because if you were, that would mean you didn't love me. And they're like, oh, we do love you. We do love you. And the mother's like, well, if you're naughty, that shows you don't love me. And basically she says, that one of the children says, if we were very, very, very naughty and wouldn't be good, what then? And so it sets up the if then. So like, if we do this, what is the consequence? And here's verbatim from the story. Then, said the mother sadly, and while she spoke, her eyes filled with tears, and a sob almost choked her. Then she said, I should have to go away and leave you, and to send home a new mother with glass eyes and a wooden tail.
I don't know if this is going to read on this camera, but there are 3
I see them.
My reading method is, an exclamation point is something that kind of activates, pops out. And that moment for me as well got 3 exclamation points. Absolutely bonkers. The threat that the mother makes is not just like, you're going to go grounded.
Right.
Right.
It's not you'll have to go to your room or you have to eat nothing but porridge all week. It's here's something horrifying.
And it's actually more horrifying than I'll leave you. Right. I mean, if you imagine, like, if you're 7 and what's the most, dad's away, there's no other parent, there's no one else around, and your mom is like, you do that again and I'm going to leave you forever. It's hard to imagine something scarier. But this story does that. Not only will I leave you, child, alone for all time, I will be replaced by something more terrible than you can imagine, a new mother with glass eyes and a wooden tail. So I am very much like vibing with this depiction of the new mother as a monster.
Yeah.
And to me, from a writing point of view, getting inspired writing monsters, this is such an example of how less can be more.
Yes.
A constant lesson that we engage with here on this book club. If you're joining, this is Horror Story Club. We're working our way through this collection of amazing horror short stories. We're here every Thursday. Less is more. Yeah, like think about like Alien. Think about Lovecraft monsters. Think about manga monsters. Like they're just so immense. It's about scale. There is no limit. Maximalist monsters.
Yes.
We get 2 details about this mom.
Yep.
A glass eye and a wooden tail. These are like things that essentially you could construct. Like you could just zip down to the hardware store and get this stuff, and you'll have like the new mother. The new mother speaks in no exceptional way. That was notable. Did you catch that? Like we actually get a line towards the end.
I did near the end. Yeah.
So if you haven't read the story, the new mother does show up at the end. The monster of this tale does show up. By and large, it's just like mom, original mom. She does have glass eyes. She does have a wooden tail. She has like a long bony arm, but generally it's just a mom, and she talks. And she says, where's the exact line? She's like standing outside the door trying to break into the kind of cabin where the kids are. And she's like, gosh, I'll just read the sentence.
Yeah.
They thought perhaps the new mother had made up her mind that there was no one home to let her in and would go away. But presently the 2 children heard through the thin wooden door the new mother move a little and then say to herself, I must break the door open with my tail. Right. So this mom talks. There's no like growl. Right.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's like there's an exciting dissonance there between this kind of like, this is an inhuman figure. It has glass eyes. It has a wooden tail. But in so many ways, it's just like mom. And that to me is extra scary. It's more scary than if this monster had been a proper full-on monster, if it had been more of kind of a completely othered witch. It's just like mom, except glass eyes and a wooden tail. Not so bad, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. It's actually way worse.
Yeah.
So that was cool to me.
Very, very, very much so. And I know we've been talking a little bit about contradictions and stuff, and you mentioned there's this context that they give us at the end. There's a narrator that pops in. And earlier, I kind of mentioned that it almost felt like the mother was a victim to this. Like she was simply sharing the rules of this world that they live in. Like, well, if you're bad, the new mother's, gonna come replace me, and I can't do anything about that. You have to behave. This is your responsibility. But who's telling this story? And do you think the mother, is she being serious in this threat in the world of the story? Or do you think that, is she just like horrifyingly pranking her children? Or something else?
Is that what we call it? Starving them?
Starving and abusing them?
Yes. So Sarah's referring to the penultimate paragraph here where the speaker of the poem says, they are there still, my children. I want to get into that, but I want to see these great comments.
Yeah.
Jimmy, the warnings to treat an older mother right. Keep a good, healthy house and don't vex her cruelly. 19 OKs in the story, like she will simply leave. In the real world, she will die.
Oh, and then who will care for you? So this is why they're warning us about this. Like, it's also so, and then Jimmy says in his next comment, and when your mother dies, who will care for you? A stranger, no one at all. You have to live in the woods by yourself. So it's also warning kids, like, hey, this is how you keep house. You don't smash things on the floor. You keep things nice and you keep the fire lit and you stay warm so that, you can continue surviving. I think that's really good. Yeah, there's like a lot of mini morals. There's not, like we said earlier, not just one major sin. There's a lot of different morals that are being taught in this story.
Agreed. And that's like some of the earliest imagery is how it's a cozy home.
Yeah.
It's a cozy home, white walls, which incidentally, I think we really see this Victorian equating like just classic color symbolism, because it says the walls are white as snow. And I was like, that's like on some like Severance. Like no one wants to be in like off-white, folks. Off-white.
Well, I thought like insane asylum or, but again, you're right. It's absolutely literary, pure white, innocent, wholesome, heavenly, all of that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. But let's get to this question. Who is telling this story? All right. I think there's at least 3 possibilities.
Okay.
So at the end, just to reiterate, at the end, the speaker identifies themselves and they say, they are still there, my children. So let's start with the most obvious option, is that it's mom. All right. We can just get into the implications of that in a second. It could also be dad.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Deep cut. Dad could be back from sea watching all this down, or it could be the 15-year-old witch girl. Oh. My children. To me, those are the 3 that those could be. The most twisted of all.
Oh, go on.
Is the most obvious that it's the actual mom. Because if it's the actual mom, that means that she not only has abandoned her children, she's watching them suffer for years. She's watching them starve to death. Well, exist as starving children. They feed on wild strawberries or nuts.
They literally just eat berries, right?
They just eat berries. They live in fear. They live in longing. Sometimes they stay to rest beside the little pool near the copse, and they long and long with a longing that is greater than words can say, to see their own dear mother again, just once again, to tell her that they'll be good forevermore, just once again. So not only does this story show us children in like agony, it shows us a mother watching her own children in agony.
Yeah. And doing nothing about it.
So what I'm feeling here is, again, if we're studying these things to see how they work, to see how they make us feel something, what we see here is a twist naturally. So there's like a sort of surprise narratively, but it's also this like zoom out moment where the story becomes like bigger and the horror expands, and it goes from being the horror of abandoned children to the horror of a mother experiencing the abandonment of her children that she caused and not doing anything about it, which is like just this like X squared, right? Like all of a sudden it just goes way up the charts. I loved it.
Yeah.
Rocked my world, really.
It's fantastic. Well, and it's interesting too. One thing that I was thinking was these morality tales sometimes are at odds with each other. So other fairy tales you might see, there's the lesson is, oh, you're walking through the woods. There's a stranger who asks you for help. And, oh, I'm careless and heartless. And I say, old man, haha, you're gross and you're wearing rags. Goodbye. And then like all these horrible things happen to punish that character for not helping the sad old man in the woods. So I even think that like setting up this 15-year-old girl, like she's crying at first. And the first thing they say to this girl is, let's see. She sat watching the children approach. She wiped her eyes as if she had been crying bitterly. The children stood still in front of her a moment, staring at her. Are you crying? They asked shyly. And they're compassionate. And like, I feel like in another fairy tale, it would have been like, you've learned your lesson to, oh, we have a spare coin we can give you if you're sad. So it's just like, okay, you know, you hear one story, you hear another story, and it's like, well, do I talk to the stranger in the woods or not? Do I help them? Do I give them a coin? Do I give them a piece of bread? Like,
Great observation.
so
Right. Yes, these children are exhibiting several virtues,
yeah,
but that is not enough to save them from the worst fate.
yeah. That makes it
I love
crueler
that.
too. Like,
Yes, it really does. That makes me think of Sultana's Dream. So
mm,
Wednesdays, folks, Sarah and I are working our way through this book. If you're a sci-fi head, sci-fi short stories every Wednesday. A few weeks ago, we read this book, Sultana's Dream. Part of my experience with that book was just the ways in which the story was loose. It was like open. It wasn't tight. It wasn't clear. And to me, what you're describing is exactly that, where there's like this inner contradiction to the story's logic, where you have good children, children who are fundamentally good, who are being terribly punished. Whereas, you know, maybe the fable that doesn't make the cut into like the greatest horror stories of all time is more like linear and one-to-one, where like a bad kid is punished. But here we have this like irony, contradiction, dissonance, whatever you want to call it, that just like stretches us as we read it, and I think induces some of those feelings. And it's cool. It's instructive. It's super instructive, I think. And it's like as soon as something starts making sense, then it's like it dies. I mean, that's a little strong, but I feel like I'm just feeling in this story, which is to me the feeling maybe of literature, where it just maintains this like tension, and it never quite coheres, and it just like sets you down all these various paths simultaneously.
yeah. Well, and it's interesting too. It's one of the first stories we've read. Well, that's not true. But I've noticed that it really solidifies the horror tradition of things not ending well for the protagonist, of having an unhappy ending. So, like, The Reach had The Star, which was the first story read by H.G. Wells, had sort of a satirical lightness to it, and in the end there was a point of view from the Martians, so it didn't feel horribly tragic by the end. The Reach had a really, frankly, beautiful ending. When we read
The Reach by Stephen King, entry 1 in Horror Story Club video up on the internet if you want to see it.
You should watch it. It's good. But yeah, and I think especially to have something this tragic happen to children, like, I don't know. I think this is really setting the stage for more nightmares to come. But yeah, this dark ending.
Yeah, truly bleak, truly uncompromising.
Bleak.
And because the victim of it, it's not like a horror story where the protagonist had wrought their end somehow. These are innocent children doing their best. Their only sin, as it were, is to be like fascinated by a colorful toy, and a teenager who doesn't, that's always cool if you're a kid, like, big kid, that's all that they've done wrong. And yes, they disobeyed their mother and lied to her, but and that's the disproportion piece, where it's just like what's essentially like an innocent mistake is utterly punished. Jimmy, my guess, it's the author stepping out of her story to address the children to whom she's telling the story. And who is in the house? The village girl who had no obvious home, who stole one.
So that's very interesting. So, Jimmy, I hadn't thought of that. So the night mother is maybe this little girl, this trickster. Not little girl. I keep calling her a little girl. Asa, I'm glad you pointed out that she's 15, because I think her being a teenager is significant here. They say initially that the 15-year-old, like, obviously doesn't live in the village and is maybe a wanderer, or if you're going in the supernatural direction, some kind of fairy or trickster. But yeah, it sounds like, especially since we never see the new mother, I think in the context of the story, it very well could be the 15-year-old girl who now has her own home.
Okay, but because she's on her way home at the end there.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything about that home, right?
Well, it's maybe insinuating that the new mother who knocks at the door is the 15-year-old girl who's like maybe dressed up as something and there to
Okay.
like steal their house, and they don't even look at the the new mother. They run out the door and never go back. They never look in the windows. They don't know who's living there. So I think suggesting that it's the 15-year-old village girl uh, doing a big trickster move
Okay.
is interesting.
Well, that was my first instinct, that it's
Was
her
it?
who comes back. That's what I thought the big twist was going to be, is that she was going to be the new mother. I don't think the text gives us enough to say that. I think it's not. I think these glass eyes are glass eyes. That woodtail is this woodtail, and I don't think this teenager has that. Let's see if Jimmy's next comment helps illuminate things. All right. Oh, and the mysterious man they saw with her earlier plays weird flute music too.
Oh, I
Always
missed
bad
that.
sign. Who is he? The devil? Wait, what guy?
Wait, you dug deep into this, Jimmy. You dug deep.
Where's their man?
I wish I had a control F in this textbook so that I could look up the word flute and find exactly where it is.
All right, guide us, Jimmy.
Jimmy, let us know. Where are we looking?
If we run with this idea that the new mother is not the teenager, okay, what do we make of the teenager?
I have written in the margins here, fairy, and then contrarian or lying. And maybe that's worth saying too. It's she does say some things. I'm kind of like looking back here. I am very rich. Oh, you don't look rich, said the children. Perhaps not, the girl answered cheerfully. So she's just like very openly being contradictory. She's lying. She's being a contrarian. And I don't know if children, so if this story is being told to children to enforce a certain behavior or morality, would children pick up on the fact that this person is lying to them, is gaslighting them, is being, is manipulating them? I don't know. I don't know if little kids would pick up on that.
I don't think they do, because they take her at face value and does what she says,
Yeah.
And the younger one, Turkey, is the one driving the ship. Also, I thought that was notable.
Yeah.
Was not the
older... younger one. Yeah. Oh, well, the middle child. And do we want to talk about the morality of the middle child?
Christ.
Yeah, because then there's a baby, there's a
the baby,
Blue Eyes, who weirdly is not named after her own blue eyes, but her father's blue eyes.
Well, doesn't she have blue eyes though? Isn't that the thing?
I don't know if she does. It says the father had the bluest of blue eyes, so gradually his little girl came to be called after them. It does not say she has blue eyes, which just bizarre.
Bizarre.
There's so much going on here. And I wanted to ask too what you thought about the names Blue Eyes and the Turkey.
Okay. This is where just the 150-year-old factor is like tough, because it's kind of like you gotta wonder what those names gave to a reader in 1882. Like, to me, it's just like these are like fairy tale-esque nicknames,
like Red Riding Hood, who wore Red Riding Hood, or Snow White, who was white as snow. Yes. Okay, so it's like more symbolic token kind of name.
And it signals, it's like this thing we keep talking about. It's like, what's the handshake of the story? What are the rules? What kind of, it's like alerting us. It's like, all right, everybody, this is a fable. This is a fairy tale. The characters are called Blue Eyes and Turkey, right? So it starts to put us in the right frame of mind. That's kind of what I thought. That was my take there.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
If you can just let me go on a little bit more about if the girl is not the new mother.
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Is significant because she has no goal then besides like sadism, which I also feel is kind of like a very modern phenomenon, in that this is not like a demon trying to get a soul. There's no like end. She just wants to make these children suffer. She incites this plot to see them suffer, and then she's out of there, as if that's like all that she was there for. There's no prize, there's no anything. Pied Piper, which you brought up, I finally had to like go revisit Pied Piper. Pied Piper
It's upsetting.
Gets all the rats out of a town, wants thanks. The town doesn't thanks. And he's like, all right, I'll just take all your children. So the Pied Piper has a clear motive. He's been aggrieved, and so he's going to do something terrible to children because of the fact that he feels disrespected, etc. If she's not the new mother, this is just a psychopath on the side of the road who's like, how bad can I mess up these kids for life, and a mother and an entire family? And then she's just out on her way home playing a song, singing. So I just think that the extremity of the terribleness on so many vectors of this story is exceptional. And that's why it just pains me. And that's why I made the headline of this video. This story is the worst thing I've read all year. I don't know if it's like the scariest, but definitely the most brutal.
Yeah. Well, and I like the word that you used, bleak. Oh, hi, Lore Huntress is here. And then when the girl taunts the children at the end, before the new mother comes, the man follows behind her playing a flute, and the dogs dance stiffly. Okay, I'm gonna find this.
All right, I will engage with this. When the girl taunts the children at the end, okay, right, the man follows behind. Jimmy, I'm so glad you spotted this. Playing a flute, and the dogs dance stiffly. Okay, right. So this is cool. Because, so maybe she is an instrument of the devil. I think the devil is a viable hypothesis for that man. Lore, so glad you're here. Welcome. Hi, all. In the retelling of the story, in More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, y'all, this is one of the best story clubs on YouTube. I'm just going to tell you right now. We have people like Lore Huntress dropping the retelling of an 1882 weird fable. This is a place you want to be. I'm so grateful for y'all. Yeah. Okay. In the retelling of this story, More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the girl says it was just a game and is surprised they believed her. The same monster replaces the mother, though. Interesting.
Well, and looking at retellings, because fairy tales are notoriously told and told and told again. They're passed down because they are used as lessons. I was also thinking ready, spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie, The Village, M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, it turns out that the monster is in a similar fashion manufactured.
True. Yes.
And so I'm curious to reread or to read the retelling of the More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark version. Is the monster also like, does it feel manufactured with glass eyes and a wooden tail instead of like claws that it grew itself? I'm just very curious about how stories like this transform. Sorry, that was a complete tangent.
I don't think at all that was weird. I think it's so interesting. And I think that instinct to have the girls say it was just a game is this instinct towards like explaining monsters, explaining evil. And I just think that her wickedness plummets by saying, hey, this was just a game. Because like maybe it's just a game and maybe they should have believed her, but by omitting that, we're left wondering and questioning. So I haven't read this retelling.
I haven't either, and I want to.
But it just makes her more human. It just makes her more human. And I'm just like all about the inhumanness of this psycho 15-year-old on the side of the road.
Well, in the 15-year-old, I think it's interesting talking about the supposed humanity of this 15-year-old. Sorry, that sounds really mean. So she did not stop singing, and all she said sounded like part of a terrible song. I am going to my own land, the girl sang, to the land where I was born. And like, to me, that really solidified that it was like a fairyland, that she is here just to ruin lives. That's because, okay, there's like happy Peter Pan fairies that like sprinkle dust on you and help you fly. But then if you really dig into a lot of Gothic fiction and fiction before that, fairies are actually really horrifying and like will drag you underground and will keep you there. And that's really kind of what I was thinking when she talks about her own land, the land where I was born. Unless we're getting unless we're getting a little xenophobic here and saying like, oh, the land where I was born, she has notably black hair. Oh, is she Irish? Is this a British story? Is there something going on here?
True.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very complicated.
Right.
And maybe purposefully obfuscated.
Right. Yes.
So.
Yeah, I mean, that's just to me another example of like, I love the fact that it's not explained. I love the fact that I have to like imagine what her home would be and what that looks like.
Yeah, her own land.
Jimmy says the girl's hair and eyes
are
black. Well, yes,
that is true.
Just never a good sign to just talk to that kind of person on the side of the roads.
And significant too, because one of our two main characters is named Blue Eyes. Like, so for another character to have black eyes feels significant as well.
Right.
Or potentially racist.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, this easily could be deeply coded. That's very obviously a potential reading. What else? What else is super exciting here? Okay.
Yep. Do you have a thing?
I have a few things, but go ahead.
No, please. You go next because mine is a thing. Please go continue.
Okay. Well, I would love to geek out briefly and efficiently on some like structure stuff here. This story is like split. It's split in the middle,
Into
so
two parts.
I'm wondering what that looked like on the page. If we're talking historical, like I wonder how this was first published in a magazine or whatever, or was this like serialized? Was this like part 1 and part 2 of a story? And I don't know. It was interesting. It was different than what we've seen. It almost felt like an intermission of a play or something.
What splits it? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, any thoughts there?
Yeah. What splits it is the threat. At the very end of part 1, it's literally, then I should have to go away and leave you and send home a new mother with glass eyes and a wooden tail. Boom. Part 2 starts. So it's like the threat cuts this in half. And again, yeah, I'm not sure how it would have originally been punished. Punished. Look what I've got on my brain from this story. Published. It looks like it came out in Anyhow Stories, Moral and Otherwise, in a collection. So part 1 and 2 would have been together. Like it wouldn't have been like, oh, I have to wait next month for the next installment of Great Expectations or whatever. So it looks like it would have been combined part 1 and part 2. But I thought that was interesting too, especially because it's on the shorter side. And I thought structurally it didn't need a part 1 and a part 2 unless the author really wanted to stress that threat, like end of chapter. Like
yes.
Yeah. So but what are your thoughts?
Well, it felt very classically like a sort of traditional midpoint in the sense that a midpoint of a story often functions as like a reset where the story starts afresh. And it's like we've been given this interdiction, do not cross me, do not talk to a stranger, which is then violated. They talk to a stranger, and that's like kind of the setup of the story. It's like, don't do this. And then they did it. Let's see what happens. And it's like, we almost get a brand new story starting afresh. Yes. You could just start it there. I'm editing a bunch of ghost stories right now for Diario de Terror, which is that like horror fiction collective thingy I do down here in Mexico City. Si están en Ciudad de Mexico, you got to come. If you're tuned in and you live in Mexico City, ghost story show coming up. Yes. And I've given these writers a hard cap of 1,200 words for these stories, which is an 8.5 minute monologue. It's not that long. As we know, 1,200 words, not a lot. And so a lot of these stories are coming in long, and the easiest fix usually is just to chop off the first 3 paragraphs. Mm-hmm. And the story usually still works. And this story, I think, it's 150 years old and it's still reading. It's you wouldn't want to mess with this story, but it still functions if you started with that part. If the mother said like, hey, if you're naughty, a new mother will come with glass eyes and a wooden tail. Like that could be like the first sentence of the story, and the story would, I think, endure and mostly still work. So to me, that's like the significance. It's like it's halfway through the story, all of a sudden it's injected with kind of this like new narrative question. We get so much energy. I think it's like, I think in short stories, it's easy to think that like just the setup and the sort of follow through of that setup is enough. But I think actually what we're seeing in some of these stories is that they contain way more stories compressed into them than initially meets the eye. And I think that's exactly what happens at the halfway point here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was very cool.
I do too. I also like your point of they're almost forgiven that first sin. They talk to the stranger, they receive the threat, and it could just stop there. You could start the story at part 2 with the new thing, which is giving into temptation. This new thing, which is believing a stranger over your mother. So yeah, a lot going on here.
Yeah. And then like the other just kind of writer-y thing that I found was like, it's the patterns and then breaking it. It's like they go, the witch teen gives them instructions and then they go do it. And the first time it's like long involved. And then the second times are like very condensed. And I just feel for myself and my own writing, I feel like my first drafts of the subsequent trips that they would have to go home and destroy everything would have been longer.
Yeah.
And that would have been like a revising moment to like, we can kind of telegraph a little bit because we showed what happens.
Yeah.
And so for the sake of acceleration propulsion, keep us moving forward towards this ultimate terror, we can elide a little bit on these like subsequent trips home where they wreck everything.
Yeah, I think I think that's a great point. It's repetition is effective, but it's really hard to do well without being repetitious. So it can be a good thing and a bad thing. And I think you're right. I think it's done very well here while still continuing to raise the tension and to make us increasingly upset and afraid at what's going to happen. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there are real stakes here. There are real punishments, and there is a real insane, horrifying mother. They are left with a life of regret, again, disproportionate and to the crime, and everything is terrible forever. The end. I guess, yeah. Anyone else in the chat have any thoughts? Anything that worked for you? Anything that didn't? And how about you, Asa? Any other thoughts? Your mic might not be working.
Somehow, okay.
Oh, there you
How's
go.
that? Somehow
Good.
I muted myself there.
No,
I'm just
great.
grateful to be reading a lot right now. Just to be really back in the groove of reading and just reminding that like stories, not only do they tell a story, it's like they present a worldview, like the assumptions underneath the stories, like the kind of values underneath the like the iceberg values on which this particular tale is set is just so interesting and just kind of, it's inspiring as like a human being to like, there's so many different like moral, ethical, social systems on which you can like build assumptions to live, which is like really abstract and lofty, but I'm just like vibing with the project of literature right now. It's very cool, very inspiring. If you're joining us, this is Horror Story Club. Every Thursday, we are working our way through one story of the Dark Descent. Subscribe to whatever channel you're watching this on to become part of this amazing story. We'll put up a Discord link here because the conversations continue. There was a fun little side project, flurry of activity on the Discord this morning where several folks read The Witch by Shirley Jackson. Anyway, good stuff happening over on the Discord. teaser. You want to tease up our next
Yeah.
story, Sarah?
Yeah, so we do 2 story clubs. We do on Wednesday, we do sci-fi, as Asa mentioned, and on Thursday, like today, we do horror. So our next horror story is by Russell Kirk, another author with whom I am unfamiliar, so I'm very excited to read this. It's called There is a Long, Long Trail a-Windin'. And it's written in that vernacular. I'm very, very excited. It starts us off with a Bible verse. It might be pretty juicy to dig into. Do you want the first sentence here?
Just give me Luke 17, baby. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Then he said unto the disciples, it is impossible, but that offenses will come. But woe unto him through whom they come. It were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he cast into the sea, than that he should offend one of these little ones. So it's kind of a...
I'll read the first sentence.
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the first sentence of the story. Along the vast, empty 6-lane highway, the blizzard swept as if it meant to swallow all the sensual world. Love.
I'm excited.
Amazing.
Oh, I'm excited. And that Bible verse really, like, I want to apply that to the poor kids and the new mother. Like,
yeah. Yeah, when we repeat this story club a year from now, then we're just gonna be like the intertextual relationships.
Oh, it's fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, again, next Thursday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific,
Something
like that.
Are we gonna try to write tomorrow night, Sarah?
I am not sure. So context for everyone, I am in Cleveland right now. I'm flying home to South Dakota tomorrow, and I should be getting in the afternoon at some point. So yeah, we'll see how we feel. I would like to do some writing. So let's tentatively plan on it for now. Is there a time that works best for you?
Well, I was thinking about mixing it up and doing like a night sesh and maybe doing something a little chattier, a little chiller. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. If you're part of the regular team here, we'll put something up. I think some writing will happen one way or the other. I know Sarah's on the road, but at the very least, I'll try to get something going if Sarah's unavailable.
Wonderful. And make sure if you are already subscribed to us, make sure you also hit the notification. It's a little bell symbol. And so when Asa and I go live, you will get a notification and you can join us immediately. No matter what time we go live, you will know.
Yes. All right. Love you, mean it. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here. And we will see you either tomorrow or at one of our other story clubs throughout the week.
Okay, wait. Actually, just in case someone doesn't have the book and needs to look it up, what is the sci-fi story next
absolutely. Week? Good call.
Actually, here, I got it.
Okay.
It's the elements of pataphysics. I'm just going to put this in the comments. If you want to jump in next week, there are your stories. Most of these stories are classics. So these books are a really great investment because you get like a zillion stories for one book. But the good news is they're also usually available because they're classics.
Yes.
All right, everybody.
All right.
We'll see you. See you soon.
Take care of yourselves.